Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's video, again, a very late upload. It's going to be a shorter one. Hopefully it's under 10 minutes. I will be try to quickly give you an update about the tropical storm situation. Now, this channel, again, I repeat, is far inferior compared to some other YouTube or other channels. For example, Tropical Tidbits, the owner of this website, Levy, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He has a YouTube channel, so just search up Tropical Tidbits, and he gives really in-depth, detailed analysis about the tropical storm situation. And again, obviously, the National Hurricane Center is first the source, but if you just want a better even source, check out Tropical Tidbits. He goes in depth. He's an actual meteorologist. He knows a lot about the weather, so he's definitely a good forecaster. And tell him I sent you there because he does a really good job. His videos are for sure the most important. You guys should be watching. Otherwise, for official info, evacuation orders, National Hurricane Center. Hopefully you won't need evacuation orders, but always for that, go to the National Hurricane Center, nhc.noaa.gov. And let's just get into this. So right now we are looking at two systems. I know everybody knows the story. There's been some talk about these two systems combining and colliding, forming a superstorm. It's not going to happen. That's one thing you don't have to worry about. These systems are almost, almost 1,000 miles apart. They are seriously just completely, they are close in terms of they're going to be relatively close, maybe 1 or 2 days apart, but they're definitely not going to combine. Just get that out of the way. Some people like to make up little stories. Let's look at Tropical Storm Marco. There are already hurricane watches and warnings, and hurricane watches and tropical storm watches, and there are some tropical storm warnings for off the western coast of Cuba. But in terms of the United States, you could see Louisiana, so New Orleans looks to be in this cone. Lots of other cities, Baton Rouge, just west of Mobile, Alabama. But again, this could track anywhere. This could still end up going into Texas, or it could end up right into Mississippi, or most likely Louisiana. But again, this is not a cone of impacts. This is a possible track. If you were to circle the impacts in terms of rain, thunderstorms, wind, it would be probably just this general area, at least, if not bigger. Now, this system, again, if we were to track way out here, the impacts would extend into Texas, and there's a lot of uncertainty. This storm is relatively small. It's not a large system, and usually with these smaller systems, you could get some pretty quick intensification. Now, it does look like the conditions are favorable, right? There's warm waters. There was really not a lot of shear going on, but there are still, it doesn't always have to intensify just because there's been, hurricanes in the past. Like if you were to watch Hurricane Katrina's track on a radar animation, it went to the Gulf and just blew up into a Category 5. That's, it's always easy to just think of it as it goes here, but there's a lot of factors that play into this. And if you were to look at this, it just says H. It's not a M. M stands for major hurricane. H stands for between 74 and 1110, so either Category 1 or 2. It'll probably be more of a Category 1 hurricane, but again, there's still so much in the air, so much still undecided, that even if one of those little pieces turns a certain way, it could kind of start a chain reaction, and that could basically lead to a strengthening of a storm beyond what they're expecting right now. So that's what they have right now. If you were to look at the wind history, notice that it was just basically tropical storm winds, no hurricane force winds yet. It's still a tropical storm, just barely. It's borderline a hurricane. If you were to look at its winds, it was 65 miles per hour, so just 10 miles, or really 9 miles off of being a hurricane. And honestly, this was at 7 p.m. standard time. It is now almost 9, so it could be now possibly a hurricane, but again, still a lot of uncertainty. With that, look at that is Tropical Storm Laura. It's at 50 miles per hour. It's quite a bit weaker, just a classic tropical storm. Now notice, this one is a bit of an interesting story as well. You can see it has a lot of potentially interesting stuff to go on. So recall yesterday it was potentially going to make its way north of the islands of Dominican Republic and Haiti. And the good news is, if you will, it kind of went right over them. And, obviously it's bad news that it went right over them, but it's good news for anyone that's else down the road, for Cuba, because if it goes over these mountains, it tears it up over land, it gets weaker, so by the time it hits Cuba, it's still a weak storm, and once it passes through, it's even weaker of a storm, and here it could still intensify. Obviously, here it could intensify extremely rapidly, but, there's a chance you could see this cone shows that it could just miss Cuba and go off into this ocean right here, into this little strait of Cuba, and this would pretty much lead it to being a stronger storm. And if it just takes it over the the longest course of land, it would be a much weaker storm. And it obviously still has a chance to intensify. It has it as a hurricane strength. I think right before landfall, it has it at 85 miles per hour, which is just a classic Category 1 storm. But again, if it were to intensify, it could become maybe a Category 2, even 3, if that were to occur. But again, it doesn't seem likely at this point, but anything is possible. Let's look at some of these weather models. This is the GFS model, Global Forecasting System. There's Marco, and it is relatively really weak. It's the GFS doesn't show it even reaching hurricane strength, but the National Hurricane Center is basically saying that it will, and they're not agreeing with the GFS. And then the GFS really intensifies Tropical Storm Laura into a hurricane, and it's a pretty strong storm by the time it hits Louisiana right there. So that's definitely a bit interesting to see if that were actually to occur. Again, the National Hurricane Center doesn't really see that happening. Let's look at the European model. European model at 12 o'clock, so it was quite a few hours ago, but you can see really just not much strength with Marco, and then Tropical Storm Laura is also just a pretty anemic storm, if you will. Really just not that powerful. And that is good news. We'd like to keep it that way. Unfortunately, though, that may not be the case, as there are some indications of the storm becoming a bit stronger from some of the higher resolution models, if you will. But again, those models tend to do that. And let's take a look at the Canadian model. I want to look at the Canadian and see what this one does. Usually the Canadian isn't well received as a good model. Usually the European is the most highly regarded model. And in that case, that would be good news. The European really just takes that storm into weak track. The Canadian, though, you could see much of the same story. Just a tropical storm, not even a hurricane, really. And then that's the end of the story, basically. Lots of rain, heavy rain, tropical storm force winds. So still a concern, right? But it's definitely, I guess, like the best scenario, because I'm about to show you some of these models here. These models, they like to really intensify the storm to some extreme levels, and this may be a bit shocking, so don't really take this to heart, because these models are just a few models. But yeah, you can see 936, 923. That would be a Category 5 hurricane, no doubt about it. That would be an extremely strong hurricane. But again, that's only a couple of models, and these models really tend to do this type of stuff. And it would be silly in order for you to just base this off of a couple of models. Again, the European and GFS are usually the most well-known ones, and the GFS does keep the storm pretty strong. I mean, it does have it at 950 millibars, probably a Category 2 or 3, but it's nothing compared to what these models do, which is just ridiculous. And some of these models do the same thing with Marco, and I mean, you can't completely disregard these models, because they're models and they have their own little way of showing these things, and there's quite a few of them agreeing on this, but you shouldn't make your forecast off of this. You can see this is what it says about Marco. It has it Wednesday occurring, so this one delays the is this Marco? This doesn't look like it's Marco. Hold on. Yes, sorry about that confusion. This model does show Marco right here, and the reason I got confused is it first showed Marco, and then it dissipated, and then just focused on Laura, the model. But notice this is Marco, very, very weak storm, and it really doesn't do much with this system at all, and just takes it off right there, really just insignificant. And then Laura is a stronger one, which that's the one that's a stronger one. Marco doesn't show it as strong, but there was a model earlier that I was looking at, and it did show Marco at some pretty strong levels. And I want to see if this is okay. So this is by Sunday. Yeah, this is Marco. You can see this one's a bit stronger intensity of this hurricane tropical storm than the other ones, but again, it's just one model, and they disagree. And for the best info, just go to the National Hurricane Center, as that's definitely your best friend. But you can see relatively also keeping it just a pretty weak system. But Laura is the one that's the interesting one. So, but I mean, they're both could be potentially powerful, and you can see that for the cones, they still have Marco as a hurricane. Except Laura may be just a bit stronger. We'll have to see. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.